Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering you're worth millions. Not because you won the lottery, not because a billionaire handed you a check, but because you spent years quietly building wealth while everyone else chased shortcuts. Here's the strange part. Nobody knows. Your friends still think you're broke. Your family still worries about your future. Your coworkers still talk down to you. And today, someone is about to humiliate you in public because they think you have nothing. Do you tell them the truth, or do you smile and let them keep believing the lie? Because sometimes the most powerful person in the room is the one nobody notices. This is your story. The Monday that changed nothing. Your alarm buzzes at exactly 6 a.m. The sound is annoying. The room is quiet. Sunlight squeezes through the cracks in the curtains, revealing the same tiny apartment you've lived in for years. The ceiling still has that water stain. The refrigerator still makes that strange humming noise every few minutes. Your coffee maker is older than most smartphones. Nothing about your home suggests success. Nothing about your life looks impressive. You walk into the kitchen wearing a faded hoodie that you've owned for almost 4 years. You pour instant coffee into a chipped mug. No expensive espresso machine. No luxury penthouse. No marble countertops. Just silence. Then, your phone vibrates. You unlock it. One notification, investment portfolio. Updated, you open the app. The number loads slowly. For a split second, your heart still races. Even after all these years, then it appears. Net worth, $8,143,927. You stare at the screen, not because you're shocked anymore, but because you remember when seeing just 4 digits felt impossible. You smile, lock the phone, slip it back into your pocket, and continue drinking your coffee as if nothing happened. Because to everyone else, nothing did happen. Outside, the neighborhood is waking up. Cars start, dogs bark, people rush to catch buses. Your neighbor waves from across the parking lot. Still driving that old car? He laughs. You smile. It still works. He shakes his head. If I had money, I'd buy something better. You nod politely. Inside your mind, you almost laugh, not at him, but at how differently the two of you define wealth. He believes wealth is something people see. You learned, wealth is something people don't have to see. Your 15-year-old sedan starts on the second attempt. The air conditioner barely works. The paint is faded. Someone scratches the bumper almost every month. Most people would be embarrassed to drive it. You aren't, because every month you didn't spend on a luxury car became another investment, and those investments never stopped working. Most people buy expensive things hoping they'll look successful. Wealthy people buy income-producing assets, so they don't have to pretend. Looking rich is temporary. Being rich is permanent. 3 years ago, your bank account looked completely different. Every payday felt exciting for about 6 hours. Then reality arrived. Rent, utilities, debt, subscriptions you forgot to cancel, credit card payments, unexpected expenses. By the middle of every month, you were checking your balance before buying groceries. You told yourself the same comforting lie millions of people tell themselves. When I earn more, I'll finally start saving. But something strange happened. Your salary increased, then disappeared just as quickly. Because every raise brought bigger expenses, a better phone, more expensive restaurants, new shoes, weekend trips. Life expanded to consume every extra dollar. Without realizing it, you had become trapped, not by poverty, but by lifestyle inflation. One rainy evening, after another stressful day at work, you sat on your couch scrolling through videos. Most of them promised fast money, get rich in 30 days, secret millionaire strategy, retire next year. You ignored them. Then one simple quote stopped your thumb. The poor spend what's left after saving. The wealthy save what's left after spending. You frowned. Something felt wrong, then you read it again. No, it wasn't wrong. It was backwards. The quote actually meant something deeper. Wealthy people don't wait to save. They make saving automatic. That sentence refused to leave your mind. For the first time, you wondered if becoming rich wasn't about earning more. Maybe it was about behaving differently. The next day, instead of eating lunch with coworkers, you walked to the public library. You borrowed books on investing, personal finance, behavioral economics, business, history, books nobody around you seemed interested in. At first, the words were confusing. Compound interest, index funds, cash flow, asset allocation, diversification. You almost quit, but every chapter answered a question you'd had your entire adult life. School taught you how to solve equations, how to memorize facts, how to pass exams. But it never taught you why some people spent their entire lives working, while others eventually made money work for them. That realization hit harder than any motivational speech ever could. Income can make you comfortable. Knowledge can make you wealthy. The biggest investment isn't your first stock, it's your financial education. The secret: nobody noticed you made one decision, a decision so small, nobody noticed. Every payday, before paying bills, before shopping, before entertainment, you invested first. Not huge amounts, sometimes only $20, sometimes $50, sometimes $100. There were months when it felt almost pointless. What difference can this make, you wondered? But you kept going, every paycheck, without exception, because consistency beats intensity. Meanwhile, everyone around you seemed to be upgrading. A coworker bought the newest phone every year. Another financed a luxury SUV. Someone else spent thousands on designer clothes. Every Monday morning, the office sounded like a competition. I just bought this. I'm flying here next month. Look at my new watch. For a moment, you questioned yourself. Were you missing out? Should you enjoy your money more? Then you'd go home, open your investment account, and watch tiny numbers quietly becoming larger numbers. Not overnight, not dramatically, just steadily. Like planting a tree. You don't notice it growing every day. Until one day, it's taller than your house. And months turned into a year. $1,000 became $5,000. 5 became 12. 12 became 25. Slowly, the impossible started looking inevitable. Nobody congratulated you. Nobody knew. Because wealth grows in silence. One Friday afternoon, your coworkers invited you shopping. They wanted new clothes for an upcoming company event. You joined them. Inside the luxury store, people tried on expensive jackets, shoes, belts, designer sunglasses. Then someone held up a jacket. You should buy this. You looked at the price. Almost $1,000. You imagined something else instead. If invested, that same money could keep growing for decades. You smiled. It looks nice, but I'll pass. They laughed. You're too cheap, maybe, or maybe you understood something they didn't. Every dollar has two jobs. It can impress strangers today, or create freedom tomorrow. You chose tomorrow. The power of invisible progress. The hardest part about building wealth is that nothing seems to happen. The first month, almost nothing changes. The first year still feels slow. Even the second year tests your patience. It's like pushing a giant boulder uphill. Heavy, frustrating, exhausting. Then something changes. Not because you suddenly became smarter, not because you discovered a secret investment, because compound growth quietly begins doing more work than you do. One investment earns money. That money earns more money. Then those earnings begin producing their own earnings. The snowball starts rolling downhill, and suddenly, the effort required becomes smaller, while the results become larger. Most people quit right before this happens. They mistake slow progress for no progress. They dig a well for water. After 5 feet, they start somewhere else, dig another 5 feet, then another, never realizing water was only 1 foot deeper. You refused to quit, even when nobody noticed. Even when your account looked too small to matter. Even when people mocked your old lifestyle. Because deep down, you weren't chasing luxury. You were chasing something far more valuable. Freedom. And freedom never goes on sale. When everyone else panicked, 2 years passed. Your routine never changed. Wake up. Go to work. Invest. Learn. Repeat. Your life wasn't exciting. It was consistent. And consistency has a strange way of looking boring. Right before it changes everything. Then one morning, your phone exploded with notifications. Markets plunge. Biggest sell-off in years. Investors panic. Every news channel was saying the same thing. Experts looked nervous. Television anchors spoke faster than usual. Red numbers covered every screen. The stock market was crashing. The office felt different that morning. Nobody was talking about sports. Nobody was talking about weekend plans. Everyone was staring at their phones. One coworker slammed his coffee onto the desk. I've lost almost 30%. Another sighed. I'm selling everything before it gets worse. Someone else whispered. I knew investing was gambling. Fear spread through the room faster than the market was falling. It was contagious. You looked at your own portfolio. Thousands of dollars had disappeared overnight. Weeks of gains gone. Months of progress erased. For a moment, your stomach tightened. Your hands became cold. A voice inside your head asked the same question millions of investors ask during every crash. What if this time is different? You closed the app, not because you didn't care, because you remembered something you'd read years earlier. The stock market is the only store where people run away when everything goes on sale. That sentence suddenly made perfect sense. If your favorite shoes dropped by 40%, you'd be excited. If your dream car was half price, you'd celebrate. But when great companies became cheaper, people panicked. Why? Because money changes the way we think. That evening, instead of selling, you did something that felt completely irrational. You bought more. Not because you knew the market would recover tomorrow. You didn't. No one did. You bought because your plan had never depended on tomorrow. It depended on the next 20 years. The market wasn't your enemy. Your emotions were. The greatest investors aren't those who never feel fear. They're the ones who refuse to let fear make their decisions. The market rewards patience far more often than prediction. The news became even worse. Every day there was another headline. Recession, inflation, layoffs, economic uncertainty. People stopped talking about building wealth. They started talking about survival. Even your family called. Maybe you should take your money out. Your friends agreed. You've made some profit already. Don't lose it. They genuinely cared. They weren't trying to mislead you. They were reacting exactly the way humans have reacted for centuries. When uncertainty appears, our brains crave safety. But investing isn't about following instincts. It's about managing them. You remembered reading about great investors from history. Every generation believed their crisis was the worst. Every generation thought recovery was impossible. Yet, markets recovered, businesses adapted, innovation continued, life moved forward. History wasn't promising the future, but it was teaching patience. Weeks became months. The market slowly stabilized. Then, without warning, it began climbing again. The people who sold in fear watched from the sidelines. The people who stayed invested recovered first. The people who kept buying benefited the most. You realize something powerful. Money flows from the impatient to the patient. Every single market cycle proves it. The day your job became optional. Another year passed. The investments you'd continued buying during the crash had grown dramatically. Your portfolio no longer looked like numbers on a screen. It looked like possibilities, choices, freedom. Then, one Monday morning, an email appeared, mandatory staff meeting. Everyone knew what that usually meant. The conference room filled with nervous whispers. Your manager walked in carrying a folder. No smile, no jokes, just silence. I'll get straight to the point. The company is restructuring. Several positions would be eliminated. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Some stared at the floor. Others quietly wiped away tears. One employee had worked there for 15 years. Another had just bought a new house. Someone else had twins on the way. Fear filled the room. Your heart beat faster too. Not because you feared unemployment, because you realized something unbelievable. If your name was called, your life wouldn't collapse. Years ago, it would have. Now, it wouldn't. Your investments were producing enough income that losing your paycheck would no longer destroy your future. For years, you thought financial freedom would feel exciting. Instead, it felt peaceful, quiet, almost invisible. No fireworks, no dramatic celebration, just the realization that your biggest fear no longer controlled your life. That was the day you understood the true purpose of money. Money isn't meant to buy luxury. It's meant to reduce fear. Fortunately, your position survived. Many others didn't. As coworkers packed their desks, you noticed something painful. Some had earned more than you for years, yet they had almost nothing saved. High income hadn't protected them. Because income alone isn't wealth. What you keep matters far more than what you earn. A high salary can disappear overnight. Skills can become outdated. Companies can close. But money invested wisely continues working long after your workday ends. Financial freedom begins the moment your money starts earning more than your effort. The invisible millionaire, life returned to normal, at least from the outside. You still drove the same old car, still lived in the same apartment, still packed lunch for work, still wore simple clothes. People continued making assumptions. One afternoon, a new employee joined the company. He looked around the office, then smiled at you. You've been here a while? Yeah, you must not make much if you're still driving that thing. You looked out the window at your faded sedan, then back at him. It gets me where I need to go. He laughed. You should enjoy life more. Maybe he was right. Or maybe he misunderstood what enjoying life actually meant. That weekend, you visited a luxury shopping district. Bright lights, luxury watches, sports cars, designer stores. Everything was designed to make success visible. As you watch people lining up to spend thousands of dollars, you notice something interesting. Many weren't buying because they needed anything. They were buying because they wanted to be seen. For years, you thought wealth meant owning expensive things. Now you understood. Real wealth often looks ordinary. The loudest displays of money are sometimes funded by debt. The quietest lives are sometimes funded by investments. The wealthiest person in the cafe isn't always the one wearing the most expensive watch. Sometimes, it's the person wearing a plain t-shirt, reading a book, with absolutely nothing to prove. You smiled, finished your coffee, walked back to your old car, started the engine, and drove home. Nobody looked twice, exactly the way you preferred it, because you had discovered a secret that couldn't be bought. Attention feels good for a moment. Freedom feels good every single day. Another 18 months passed, the market recovered, then it kept climbing. The investments you had continued buying during the worst months of fear were now producing returns you had never imagined. You stopped checking your portfolio every hour, then every day, eventually, only once a month. You had learned one of the greatest lessons about wealth. The more often you watch your investments, the more tempted you are to interfere with them. Sometimes, doing nothing is the most profitable decision you'll ever make. One Tuesday morning, your boss knocked on your office door. Got a minute? You followed him into the conference room. He closed the door behind you. I've been watching your work. You've been consistent, reliable, calm under pressure. We'd like to offer you a promotion. The salary was almost double what you were making. A larger office, a better title, more prestige, more responsibility, longer hours, late-night meetings, weekend emails, constant stress. Years earlier, you wouldn't have hesitated. This was everything you dreamed of. Now, you looked out the window. The city was alive. People rushed down the sidewalks. Everyone seemed to be chasing something: money, recognition, status. You realized you were no longer chasing. You already had enough. You turned back towards your boss. I appreciate the offer, but I'm going to decline. Silence. Your boss blinked. I'm sorry. Decline? You'd be making almost twice as much. You smiled. I know. Then why? You took a slow breath. Because I'm trying to own my time, not sell more of it. Your boss stared at you. For several seconds, he didn't know what to say. Most people spend their entire lives believing that more money automatically means a better life. But money without time is just another form of debt. That afternoon, you returned to your desk feeling lighter than ever before. Not because you rejected more income, because you chose freedom over status. Many people become prisoners of bigger paychecks. The goal isn't to earn the highest salary. The goal is to build enough assets that your time belongs to you. Financial freedom is measured in choices, not possessions. A few weeks later, your old group of friends invited you to dinner. Nothing fancy, just a small restaurant where you'd all met countless times before. The conversations hadn't changed much over the years. Someone complained about bills. Someone complained about work. Someone complained about the economy. Then the conversation shifted. If I ever become rich, one friend laughed, I'm buying a Lamborghini the very next day. Everyone nodded. Another added, I'm buying the biggest house I can find. A third smiled, I'd quit my job immediately. Then one friend looked directly at you. What about you? If you suddenly had millions, what would you buy? You looked around the table. No one knew. No one even suspected. You had quietly become exactly what they were imagining. You smiled. I'd buy... A short pause. And my freedom. They laughed. No, seriously. I am serious. They thought you were joking. The conversation moved on. But inside, you realized something. Most people dream about spending money they've never earned. Very few dream about protecting the money they already have. That's why wealth disappears so quickly for so many people. Money doesn't change habits. It magnifies them. If someone can't manage $1,000, 1 million won't solve the problem. It simply creates bigger mistakes. That night, you drove home in your old car. The same old engine, the same faded paint, the same squeaky brakes. At a red light, a brand new luxury sports car pulled up beside you. The driver looked over, smirked, then sped away when the light turned green. You smiled, Not because you envied him, not because you judged him, because you finally understood something. People race to impress strangers they'll never meet again. Meanwhile, real wealth moves quietly. The secret you never told. Years continued passing. Your investments kept growing. 1 million became 2, 2 became 4, 4 became 6. Then, one ordinary Thursday morning, your phone displayed a number that made you stop walking. Net worth, $8,143,927. You stared at it for a long moment, not with excitement, with gratitude. You remembered every sacrifice, every lunch packed at home, every unnecessary purchase you skipped, every weekend spent learning instead of showing off, every market crash you survived, every moment people laughed because they thought you were too cheap. Every single decision had quietly built this moment. Yet, nothing around you had changed. You still lived simply. You still smiled at strangers. You still helped your parents whenever they needed it. You still donated anonymously. You still bought books more often than expensive gadgets. The money had changed your options, but it had never changed your values. That was your greatest victory. One afternoon, a coworker sighed while looking at your old backpack. You really need an upgrade? You looked down at it. It still worked perfectly. You smiled. So do I. He laughed. Neither of you explained anything further. Some truths don't need defending. The strongest financial position is invisible. When nobody knows how much you have, nobody expects anything from you. Privacy protects peace. One Saturday morning, you walked through a quiet park. Children laughed on the playground. An elderly couple fed birds by the lake. A father taught his daughter how to ride a bicycle. A young man sat alone reading a book beneath a tree. No one there knew your net worth. No one cared. And for the first time, you understood what wealth had really given you. It wasn't luxury. It wasn't status. It wasn't admiration. It was the ability to enjoy ordinary moments without financial fear. To wake up without wondering how you'd pay next month's bills. To spend time with the people you loved without checking work emails every 5 minutes. To help others without expecting recognition. To choose peace over pressure. That was wealth. You sat on a park bench and watched the world move around you. A businessman hurried past while talking loudly on his phone. A luxury SUV rolled by the street nearby. Joggers chased fitness goals. Teenagers chased social media likes. Everyone seemed to be chasing something. You weren't. For the first time in your life, you felt like you had arrived, not at a destination, but at a state of mind, because true wealth isn't having everything. It's no longer needing to prove anything. That evening, you opened your investment app one last time. The number was still there, over $8 million. You smiled, then closed the app, not because the number didn't matter, but because it no longer defined you. Years ago, money was your dream. Today, time was. You looked around your small apartment, the peeling paint, the old coffee mug, the worn-out couch, the quiet room. Someone else might have called it ordinary. You called it freedom, because every object in that room reminded you of a decision not to impress, a decision to invest, a decision to wait, a decision to stay patient when everyone else rushed. People often ask what the first sign of becoming rich looks like. It isn't a luxury car. It isn't a mansion. It isn't designer clothes. The first sign is that you stop caring whether other people think you're rich. Because the moment you stop chasing appearances, you start building reality. And maybe that's why the richest person in the room is often the one nobody notices. If this story changed the way you think about money, let it be more than entertainment. Let it become the day you start investing in your future, learning about money, and choosing long-term freedom over short-term appearances. Subscribe for more stories about wealth, psychology, investing, success, and the decisions that quietly change lives. Remember, don't aim to look rich, aim to become free.